I had the opportunity to work alongside my cooperating teacher for 2 full years, not just the half semester that was required for my block teaching. I have worked in Karen Phillips' classroom for a year and a half as a para-educator, working with her and her students and conducting many assessments alongside her, also aiding in translating for some students who need a little extra assistance on assessments. As for formative and summative assessments, for the students that I was able to observe more in detail during the time that I was technically in my Block B volunteering stage, there were both formative and summative assessments conducted, but they were altered to fit the needs of the students, to fit both their physical disabilities, such as sight impairments, hearing impairments, along with their learning disabilities. Most of the assessments were given orally, such as the summative assessments that were given twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, just to kind of monitor progress and see how the curriculum that had already been altered to fit their needs, what they were learning from this. As for one student that I am able to speak freely on because she is related to me, this student was deaf as well as autistic, so her assessments looked a lot different than a typical general education student. I would sit with the teacher and the student to help translate the questions that were being asked, and then translate her response back to the teacher if it wasn't a physical response that was needed, such as if the question was, which one of these is red? I would ask her, which one is red? And she could either tell me this one is red, or she would point to where the teacher wouldn't need my assistance in translating. This was something that I witnessed outside of my block volunteering. Some of the things that I noticed while in my volunteering time at the school was paras in working with their students. They would have task folders, and they would be working with a student collecting data every time they performed a task, such as if they were matching colors. A para would ask the student to match markers to a certain color spot, and they would put a plus if they got it correct and a minus if they did not get it correct, and there were alternatives whether they needed assistance on this or not. There were also these same kind of assessments for emotions and emergency signs and community helpers. Each aspect of their curriculum had a almost daily assessment along with it to kind of track the data and to monitor their progress throughout the year. As for meetings or teams that reviewed the data, each student in the classroom had their own IEP team. That would, for some students, there was a monthly meeting where the team would get together and discuss the progress of the student. For other students, there were IEP meetings that were held once or twice a year to discuss progress of that student and to reevaluate goals and other things that were needed of these students. The data definitely drove the instruction. A lot of these students were not on, their age did not match their grade level. They were not on track for where they should be. Many of our students were operating on a much lower grade level than what would follow along with what their age was. Specifically, the student that I was related to, she would be in a third grade classroom due to her age, but due to her physical disabilities and her learning disabilities, she was set back to about a 2 or 3 year old instead of a third grader. And so a lot of the assessments were based upon that level of learning. And every month, paras would get together with the teachers, or even sometimes weekly or daily, depending on how well the student would master a task at hand, to reevaluate the level of difficulty of their assignments in their curriculum. There was a lot of communication going on between teachers and paras and extra team members such as occupational therapists and physical therapists and speech therapists and psychologists, all of the above. They all worked together to try to meet the needs of each specific child in the classroom that I worked on. And I'm very thankful for the time that I got to spend with Miss Phillips. Sadly, she'll be moving at the end of this month, and I won't get the opportunity to work with her again, which is really sad, but I plan to continue being her friend and having her as a mentor as I go through my teaching career and follow up with my master's in special education.